Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are plunging deep into an economic puzzle that's really defining the future of development in South Asia.
And that puzzle is Nepal.
Exactly. You have this country where, over 60% of the population works in agriculture, a truly agrarian nation.
It is. And yet, and this is the core contradiction, it faces a crippling reliance on food imports.
The numbers are staggering.
They are. Last fiscal year, food imports went past 300 billion Nepali rupees. That puts incredible pressure on everything. Foreign reserves, local stability.
So this isn't just a simple failure of production.
No, it's a structural problem.
Okay.
It's what economists call the low equilibrium trap of subsistence farming.
A trap. And that's what we're here to unpack. Our mission today is, well, it's straightforward. We're not just reporting that some agri-startups exist.
Right.
We need to analyze the economic mechanics these young innovators are actually using, the structural barriers they're hitting, and how they're re-engineering an entire value chain with a digital-first mindset.
And if you're looking for the key takeaway from this deep dive, it's this. The ventures having the most impact right now are almost invisible.
Invisible.
To the average consumer, yes. They aren't the glossy farm-to-table brands. They are B2B platforms. They focus entirely on coordination and logistics.
So they're fixing the pipes, not just changing the storefront.
Perfectly put. Their value is in fixing these deep market failures in procurement and logistics long before a vegetable ever hits a shelf. They're turning chaos into predictable, boring transactions, and that's revolutionary.
Okay, let's unpack that chaos then. To understand the solution, we have to start by diagnosing the disease. What is the fundamental failure in Nepal's agricultural system that just guarantees low yields and these huge import bills? It's more than just a lack of tractors, right?
Oh, far more. We're looking at a system that's hobbled by two critical, very costly market failures.
Sure.
First, crippling information asymmetry, and second, extreme market fragmentation. Both of them just reinforce that trap we mentioned.
Let's start with information asymmetry. That feels so foundational. What's the practical, real-world cost for a farmer standing in their field?
It's the cost of having zero negotiation power. I mean, just picture a small farmer. Let's say she's in Tading, about 100 kilometers from the capital.
Okay.
She has a perfect harvest of high-demand zucchini, but she has absolutely zero real-time access to the wholesale price in the main Kalamati market in Kathmandu.
Or who even needs it.
Or who needs it. She doesn't know what a big hotel chain in Pokhara is looking for.
So she's just guessing, selling into a void.
Exactly. She sells to the very first local collector who shows up at her farm gate. That collector then adds a margin.
Of course.
And sells to a regional wholesaler who adds another layer, and so on.
Yeah.
At every single stage, there's opacity, margin is added, and the farmer, the one who did all the work, gets a pittance.
Which means she can't invest in next season's crop.
It's a system designed to keep the primary producer down.
And then you pair that with the second problem. Extreme market fragmentation. This sounds more like a physical, logistical problem.
It is. It's the physical chaos that makes large-scale procurement almost impossible. The average landholding in Nepal is tiny.
How tiny?
We're talking less than 1 hectare. So now put yourself in the shoes of a modern buyer, a supermarket chain maybe, or a food processing company.
And I need, say, 500 kilos of bell peppers every week.
Yeah.
Standardized, same quality.
Right. You can't just call one supplier.
No, I'd have to deal with, dozens, hundreds of tiny scattered farms.
Potentially hundreds. Just think of the effort to coordinate all that. Verifying quality, managing payments. Economists call these transaction costs, and in this case, they are prohibitively high.
It's just not worth it. It's cheaper and easier to just import.
That is the vicious cycle. It's why organized buyers either rely on those inefficient middlemen or, yes, just turn to predictable imports.
And the waste from all this must be enormous.
It's dire. The system guarantees huge post-harvest losses. For some perishables, it can be as high as 40%.
40%.
So the farmer is trapped, can't guarantee a sale, so can't get a loan. So they just stick to low-risk, low-yield crops like rice, which just perpetuates the whole problem.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. This is where the ingenuity comes in.
Yes.
These young entrepreneurs, they looked at this mess and realized something fundamental. They weren't competing in agriculture. They were competing in coordination.
That is the critical strategic pivot. The most valuable commodity isn't the potato. It's verifiable, actionable data. It's knowing who needs what, where and when.
So they completely rejected the old model.
Completely. They threw out the capital-intensive playbook that said you have to own huge tracts of land or build massive cold storage facilities.
Instead, they go for this asset-light platform approach.
Exactly. They don't want to build the hardware. They want to build the coordinating software that runs on top of it.
So operationally, what does that look like? If you don't own the farms and you don't own the trucks, what are you actually selling?
You're selling efficiency. You're selling technology. And maybe most importantly, you're selling trust.
Give me an example.
Look at a venture like DV Excelis's Keddy. They aren't farmers, they're partners. They partner with farmers for supply and with independent logistics companies for delivery.
So what are their assets?
Their assets are their tech stack, their database on farmer performance, their quality control rules. Their entire value is in the network they build. Every new farmer makes the platform better for buyers, and every new buyer makes it more valuable for farmers.
You mentioned those crippling transaction costs from fragmentation. Let's get specific. How does a platform like this solve that coordination nightmare?
Okay, take a company like Upaya City Cargo or others in that space. They use incredibly simple mobile tech apps, sometimes just SMS messages to aggregate demand.
From who?
Mostly from big urban businesses. Think of the Agri-Sector hotels, restaurants, and institutions. They push that demand signal out to their network of farmers.
So let's use an example. A resort in Saraha needs.
Right. Let's say a high-end resort in Saraha places a single guaranteed order for 200 kilograms of standardized graded tomatoes.
Which is probably way more than any single small farm can produce.
Exactly. But the platform handles that complexity. It coordinates the harvest schedule across, say, 30 different farms, sets up a central point for quality checks, and then manages the final delivery.
So the buyer gets consistency, and the startup gets a fee for creating a supply chain where there wasn't one before.
And the farmers get a reliable buyer. Everyone wins.
Which means the focus has to be just ruthless on the unit economics.
Absolutely.
It's not about app downloads or brand visibility. It's about the net margin on every single kilogram they transact.
Correct. The scalable money isn't in being a cute, direct-to-consumer, farm-to-table brand. That's a high marketing cost, low volume. The real purchasing power is in fixing the back end for these big institutions who need volume and reliability and are willing to pay for it.
What about risk? I mean, farming is so volatile. Weather, disease.
Yeah.
How do these platforms help farmers manage that?
They essentially become outsourced risk managers. By aggregating all that predictable B2B demand, they can give farmers a quasi-guarantee of offtake.
A guarantee they'll buy the harvest.
And that guarantee is transformative. It gives a farmer the confidence to shift from, say, low-value subsistence rice to higher-value crops like zucchini or bell peppers because they know someone is going to buy it. They de-risk the market side of the equation.
And what about production risk?
They help there too. Many platforms integrate other services, things like subsidized soil testing, best practice advice sent by SMS, localized weather alerts. They're trying to minimize crop failure from controllable factors.
Now, this kind of innovation, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's only possible because of two, let's call them, foundational rails that have really matured in Nepal recently.
That's a great way to put it.
What are they?
The first one is simple: digital infrastructure. Mobile phone saturation in Nepal is now well over 130%. Smartphones are everywhere, so the channel to reach the farmer is there.
And the second rail?
The financial revolution. The rise of digital payment platforms like ISIA and Kalti. This is absolutely critical.
Why?
Because it allows these agri-tech platforms to make low-cost, high-frequency payments directly to hundreds of small farmers. It completely bypasses the slow, expensive, and often inaccessible formal banking system for these small transactions.
But even with those rails in place, they're hitting a wall. And that wall seems to be capital. The analysis we saw suggests that standard venture capital at growth at all costs model is a really dangerous fit here.
It is a dangerous fit. There's a huge capital mismatch.
Explain that. Why?
Because agri-tech has real-world friction. You can't escape it. Agricultural cycles are long. You have seasonal lumpy growth. You have monsoons washing out roads, landslides, unreliable electricity.
And standard VC wants smooth exponential growth curves. Yesterday.
Exactly. But you cannot accelerate the growing season of a mango. It just doesn't work that way.
So they need a different kind of money.
They need what we call patient capital. Investors who understand that steady, resilient profitability over a 7 or 10-year cycle is the real prize, not just hypergrowth in year one. We've seen models for this in India, with government-backed funds that de-risk private investment in this exact sector.
That handles the money side. But the analysis points to one single, biggest non-capital bottleneck, a policy gap that's stopping these platforms from truly scaling.
And this is the absolute crux of the issue.
What is it?
It's the glaring total absence of a modern, streamlined, and legally enforceable Contract Farming Act.
Okay, let's slow down and really dissect this. Why is a lack of contract law so damaging for these tech companies?
Well, think about their business. For an agri-startup, what is their single most valuable asset?
Their ability to guarantee supply.
Right. That contract to buy a farmer's harvest of high-value crops, it's the proof they can deliver to their big buyers. But if that contract is vague or worse, completely unenforceable in a court of law, what is it actually worth?
It's basically just a handshake deal.
Exactly. Which means it's nearly worthless as collateral for a bank loan. A bank can't lend operating capital to a startup whose main asset, their guaranteed supply, is legally fragile.
Wow. So this one missing law basically caps their ability to grow.
It creates a hard ceiling. They can't bank their own supply contracts. A robust Contract Farming Act would instantly transform those agreements into bankable assets, unlocking huge amounts of formal credit for everyone in the chain.
Which lets them move beyond being just a niche player.
Precisely.
So let's look forward. When you put this incredible entrepreneurial drive up against these huge policy gaps, it seems like two very different scenarios could play out over the next 5 years. Let's start with the first one, the boutique scenario.
Right. So if the policy environment stays as it is, no Contract Farming Act, no patient capital, these startups will survive. They're smart. They'll focus on high-margin defensible niches.
Like what?
Supplying gourmet mushrooms to high-end restaurants, exporting specialty tea, providing organic vegetables to the expat community in Kathmandu.
Profitable for them, but a marginal impact on the bigger picture.
Exactly. There'll be these little islands of efficiency, highly profitable for their founders, but they won't make a dent in that 300 billion rupee import bill. They won't change national food security.
But there's another path, the systemic scenario. And this one depends entirely on the government stepping up.
Yes, this is the future where the government passes a strong Contract Farming Act. Then, the central bank, the Nepal Rashtra Bank, creates special refinancing facilities against those now bankable contracts.
So the credit starts to flow.
The credit flows. And critically, the government co-invests with the private sector to build out that essential physical infrastructure, especially a national network of cold chains.
And if that happens,
If those three things align, these startups evolve from serving a few dozen hotels to efficiently feeding entire cities.
this brings us back to what feels like the hard truth of the whole situation. You have entrepreneurs building this incredibly sophisticated software.
Data platforms, coordination apps, algorithms.
But they are trying to run that software on completely outdated hardware.
That's the perfect analogy. The software solves for information asymmetry and transaction costs. But the physical hardware, the roads that wash out, the cold storage that doesn't exist, the unreliable electricity, that all imposes massive physical friction.
And the legal hardware imposes institutional friction.
Exactly. They can build clever workarounds, but ultimately these startups cannot pave the highways or rewrite the legal code themselves.
So their success is linked to the state's commitment.
Absolutely. The entrepreneurs are building these incredible engines of growth, but the state has to commit to building and maintaining the tracks, both physical and legal, for those engines to run at full speed.
So that journey from crippling import reliance all the way to these asset-light B2B data platforms, it's a story of transformation happening in real time.
It is.
But the difference between these little boutique successes and a real systemic nation-changing impact, it really comes down to one seemingly boring piece of paper, the Contract Farming Act.
And if that legal mechanism gets put in place, the strategic conversation immediately has to shift to the next frontier.
Which is?
Mobilizing capital, public and private, to build that national cold chain. That's the missing piece that lets you move high-value crops from a farm gate to a city consumer without that 40% loss we talked about.
A huge undertaking.
It is. So the question for you, the listener, as you think about policy or investment, is this. What's the real risk-reward ratio here? Is it better for public investment to focus on building the physical hardware, the roads, and the cold storage, or on enabling the legal software that lets private capital scale and manage the rest? Something for you to mull over as you watch this space evolve.
A fascinating insight to end on. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.